Is an awkward angle. It's your birthday. It's your birthday. Yes, it's my birthday. There we go. Now you can see what I see. There we go. So happy birthday to me. If you saw any of my posts, especially on Instagram, I have been sharing about the flower blanket I made. So I finished that already. And I have lots of yarn left. So I am going to be making, well, I am in the process of making a blanket with some of the extra yarn. There we go. And it's my birthday. So I'm in my PJs and I'm enjoying it. I did make some breakfast for the chief and I. And it is snowing like crazy right now in Southeast Michigan. Let's see. Can I get you a snow shot? Let's see. And no, I don't have makeup on. I did not do my hair. It's my birthday. I don't have to. Unless I want to. See? So it's coming down pretty hard. You almost can't see, and it's almost like a fog as far as like how fast it's coming down. And those are little juncos. Little juncos. So, oh, now they're going to fight. So the juncos come down. They migrate down from Canada in the winter. And then in the spring, they migrate up to Canada to do their mating and breeding and raising their young ones. So it's kind of bittersweet when they come in. I'm kind of, I'm glad to see them because I really like them. They're very cute. They got a white bottom and usually a bright yellow beak. And they're just fun to watch. Oh, that's a house sparrow on there. Not a house sparrow. It's a, different kind of sparrow. It's got some red on it. And then the... whatever those birds are I was just talking about, juncos, the juncos, they, it's, I'm glad to see them because they're cute, but then I also am kind of sad to see them because it means it's going to get cold. And likewise, when they leave, I'm a little sad to see them go, but I'm glad to see them go because then it is the growing season and that's pretty exciting. So if you haven't filled your feeders lately, you probably want to do that soon because you won't be able to get to them. That snow on top of this feeder is from yesterday, and then like half was from yesterday and then half has been from this morning. And we are supposed to get, they say, 6 to 10 more inches between now and what was it, Sunday morning, I believe is what they said. Oh, I can't see this too. Here. Okay. So yeah, it's my birthday. I'm in my pajamas. I don't have my makeup or hair done, so I'm not coming on camera. But in honor of my birthday, well, here's the thing. I was going to do winter sewing class, a hands-on. Oh, come on now. There. Okay, so I was going to do a hands-on winter sewing class today from 2 to 4. And I was so excited about it. But because the roads are going to be so bad, I don't want people coming out and, getting in an accident to learn stuff. Or I don't want people staying away because of the weather. So I would like to do this as more of a virtual event, if anyone is interested in that. Because we are running out of time to be able to start milk jugs and start seeds going. So I don't want to wait too long. And what I'll probably do, if there's interest, there. If you are interested in joining a virtual workshop about how to start winter sewing, that's going to be free because you'll provide your own materials. But what I want you to do is I want you to get the materials ahead of time. So you'll need a couple standard milk jugs or juice jugs. Nothing that's got a solid coloring. So not like a white milk jug, but like the kind that's kind of, it's a little bit like opaque, so you could see through it. Like if you put your finger in there, you could see your finger. Get those kind of milk jugs, or like I said, you can get juice jugs. Some people start with pop bottles, 2-liter pop bottles. That could work. You're going to need that. You're going to need a cutting implement, scissors, or an X-Acto. You will need some labels and seeds and soil and what else? Some wire. And then if you have one already, or if you want to go get one, a cheap soldering iron is super, super, super handy. If you can get a cheap soldering iron, it's a lot easier and quicker to do more jugs to start your seeds. So if you get those materials together, and then we have this online workshop through Zoom, then you would be able to participate as I'm doing them, and it's almost like being hands-on. So look for that coming up. I don't think it's going to be tonight, because maybe you don't have the materials yet. So I'm thinking it won't be tonight, and it won't be Wednesday night. But I might be able to do like Tuesday evening. I think that would probably work best for me. So if that's something you're interested in, the winter sewing class, the winter sewing workshop will be free and on my birthday. And it will likely be about around 7 o'clock on Tuesday night. Because I don't want to interfere with like church stuff or middle of the week stuff. And I didn't want to necessarily hold it tonight because you might have to get some materials together, and I don't want to put people on the spot. So that one is going to be free. The other thing, in honor of my birthday, is if you wanted a garden consultation right now, well, not right this second because we got all this snow, but if you want a garden consultation this spring, if you email me today, you will get $15 off. So you will get 10% off of the garden consultation fee. If you email today and schedule, you want to schedule a garden consultation, if I get your email today saying, hey, yes, I do want a garden consultation, you will get $15 off, which is 10% off of the garden consultation fee. So in a garden consultation, I will come to your place. I will have asked you some questions beforehand. We talk a little bit beforehand. And then I come out to your place and I walk it with you and we talk about things for about an hour. And I point things out that you're doing well. I point things out that could use a little bit of improvement. I'm never going to make you feel bad about things. I might ask you questions, but I'm not going to make you I'm not going to try to make you feel bad about what you're doing or not doing. I might tell you, what the consequences are or what the ramifications are of some of the things that you might be doing or thinking about. And you can pick my brain. Hi, Monica. Thank you. Hi, Curtis. Thank you. So in an on-site consultation, you get to pick my brain about whatever you want that's going on. So let's say you had a question about maybe you want to put in some new flower beds. Well, we can talk about your flower beds, and then we also can walk around the rest of the property, and you can pick my brain about anything else. Maybe you got a tree with some kind of disease, or you had problems with your tomatoes, and I am yours for that whole hour. So while we're talking, and I'm talking to you and I'm giving you feedback, you can either be taking notes or you can rely on the written report that I'm going to give you. I will be taking lots of pictures, tons and tons and tons of pictures, so that I can remember things in a garden consultation on site at your place. On sale 2-day only for $15 off or 10%. If you email me today that you do want to schedule a garden consultation. Then in honor of my birthday, you get some money off. So I would take lots and lots of pictures as we're walking around, and I will come out. I don't care what the weather is, it can't be right this second because of the snow. But when the snow starts melting away, I don't mind coming out in snow and rain and whatever. It doesn't matter to me, just not lightning. That's the only thing, it's not lightning. But I will take lots of pictures about what we are looking at and talking about. And then in my written consultation report, I give that back to you with all the pictures and all the stuff we talked about and the recommendations I made. And the consultation report will have like references that you can look at, ideas for you. It will have like an example might be, an example might be that let's say I drove in to your place and I saw that there were trees that had grass growing all the way up against the trunk. That would be something I would mention in my report. I would have probably taken a picture of it to show you. And then when I get there, I would explain that, hey, when you've got a tree and you've got grass growing all the way up to the trunk, the grass it's capturing water, it's capturing air, and the tree is competing with the grass all around there. And I would explain that the tree roots go all the way out to the very ends of the tree tips, the branch tips. They're going all the way out there. And so if you wanted to preserve your trees and make the most happy trees that you can have and keep them as a valuable resource on your property, then you may want to consider removing the sod around the tree to the tips of those branches, and instead of grass, using a mulch of some sort. So that would be something that I would put in that consultation report, and I would explain why, and I can give you diagrams, and I can give you all the rationale behind it, things like that. So if that's something you're interested in, then you want to email me today at thelazynortherngardener, which is the same thing as my website, thelazynortherngardener, garden and then ER, at Yahoo, because it's easy.com. Tell me who you are and that you'd want to set up a garden consultation. It could be also for a homestead, doesn't have to be for garden. You might not even have a garden yet and you want to start one. A garden consultation is perfect for you because I can give you the right site with the most sunshine, the best ease of access, water sources, soils, things like that. So I can come out there and help you wherever you are in your journey. So if you don't have a garden yet, you want one, I can give you feedback on the best way to get started, the best way, I guess. I don't know how else to say it. How to get started on the right foot, I guess. If you've been growing for a while and you just want to know, okay, how can you improve production? How can you decrease fungus? How can you keep some of the pests from attacking your crops? Things like that. I can come out for that. If you say, hey, listen, I've been gardening forever and I thought I would attract hummingbirds and butterflies and they're not showing up, then I can say, hey, maybe you want to consider this or this or that. So my brain resources would basically be yours. Crocheting. I hate to do this, but sometimes you have to. And that's the other part. Sometimes your setup is not good for you, and sometimes it's not good for the plants. So sometimes I might recommend, very rarely, but I might recommend taking something out and replacing it or trying something different. Like crochet. When you mess up in the crochet and you got to pull it out, it's annoying. But I want my edges to be relatively straight. They're kind of bumpy here. I want them to be relatively straight. So sometimes you have to do that. So today only, if you want a garden consultation in honor of my birthday, you can get $15 off Oh, that might have been it. It's because I got 2 bumps there. Or 15 or 10% of the $150 garden consultation fee. But you have to email me today on my birthday, the 15th, at thelazynortherngardener at yahoo.com. And that can get you 15% off of a garden consultation. And we'll schedule that in this a little bit closer to the spring. I can take phone calls about what's going on before spring actually comes. But when I walk the site, I need to be able to see under the snow, and I don't have x-ray eyes. I can get some general ideas from pictures that you might have. And I can actually, like, if you wanted, like, a build plan or a do-it-yourself garden design, something like that, then I can do that before we meet. That's not a problem. It just helps, though, if we are meeting face-to-face on the land that you're trying to grow things. And, man, I could use a crochet tutor, a crochet coach. And with, with the setting that you are working with. There's one little more stitch right here to get. Just a tiny little stitch. Get in there, you dum-dum. Okay. And then the other thing is, in honor of this snow, is anyone else thinking that snow is like a bad word? I mean, I know it's good for our ground and it's good for our water supply, blah, 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 all that stuff. That's better. See, now that's more flat. See? That's better. With just that one little stitch. I couldn't see at first. There's 1, 2. There. Yeah, so in honor of the snow and the roads being cruddy, I am not having the in-person workshop for winter sowing. But I will have a Zoom session, likely at 7 o'clock at night, and likely this week, like Tuesday. And that will be free, but you have to have your materials with you at your place, or it's not going to do you any good. Because it's hands-on. So if you are doing it as I am doing it, you'll have questions as we go along. And I can answer those questions for you. But if you're just listening and you're not participating, it won't do you any good. It really won't. And when you see how easy it is to winter sow, you'll be amazed. So I have been gardening for, well, since I was early 20s, I think. It was like right out of college. My boyfriend and I had rented a house in Ferndale, and I started gardening, and I had zero idea of what I was doing. I had no idea what I was doing. I would see something really pretty at a nursery, like Gaura. You know that long stemmed white flower. I think it's got a little bit of pink in it too. And they just kind of float in the air on the long stem. And I loved it. I thought, oh, that's so pretty. I had no idea how to take care of it. I would get the plant that I loved. I'd like the leaves, or I'd like the color, or I'd like the texture of the leaves, or I'd like how it moves in the wind, like that Gaura. And I might not even be saying it right. And I would just bring it home and just plop it in the ground. I'd make a hole, pop it in the ground. I might water it when I first got it in there. I mean, I always watered it usually, but maybe I would forget to continue to water it until the roots would grow, or I just didn't know. The other thing is I didn't read the tags of the plants. So if it needed sunshine, I didn't check to see how much sunshine, like just a little bit or a lot. If it needed a moist condition, I didn't check for that. If it was invasive, I didn't check for that. An example of the invasive plants would be bishop's weed or gout weed. And if you have grown that before, you know how aggressive it can be. And people will say, oh, there's invasive plants, or there's native plants. You need to grow native plants. You need to grow native plants. Well, yeah, I got on that kick several years ago, and then I realized native means the plants are so happy that they will grow in our conditions, all the conditions that we have. That means they are so at home. That's like having a guest come over and they decide they don't want to wear their pants and they walk around your house. And you're like, wait, that's not what I was looking for. You're too familiar. And so native plants can be too familiar, and they can really take up a space quickly that you didn't realize. So I didn't know all this stuff when I first started gardening, and I got the pretty plant, I made a hole, put it in the ground, and I would get sad if it died, because I was like, oh, I must not be a very good gardener, blah, 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 blah. But I was always so busy doing other things too. Being a young adult, I didn't put any time into it or effort into it. And I was having a career, and then I was having kids in a career, and I was just really busy all the time. And I didn't really, didn't invest in that kind of knowledge. And I kept doing the same things over and over and over again, mistakes. And if something grew well, it wasn't because of me. That was like a happy mistake, a happy accident, as that painter Bob Ross likes to say, a happy accident. And it was like in spite of me and not because of me that something would grow. So I made tons of mistakes all through my growing years. Let's see, what else? So I have been gardening for a long, long time. My grandmother was a master gardener in Troy, Michigan. My great grandma came from Sweden as a little girl, and what she would do in her backyard is she would toss out into the yard coffee grounds and eggshells. She would toss them all winter long. And then my dad would go through in the spring and rototill it all into the ground for her. And that worked really well for her. Then my great-grandma, not my great-grandma, that was my great-grandma. My grandma, the master gardener, they lived on a lake in Troy for quite a while, a man-made lake. And she could grow amazing roses and other plants. But what she would do is if we were fishing at the ponds, like on the lake, every now and then she would ask us, hey, don't throw that back. And what she would do, and this is kind of cool because this is like lazy gardening and it's right up my alley. And Brooks Wheeler, he does this too. So she would dig a hole at the base of her roses, one of her rose plants, and she would ask us to just put that fish in there. So we would. And she'd cover it back up, and nature would decompose it, and her roses looked amazing. But yeah, Brooks Wheeler does that too. He catches fish, makes a trench, puts them in there, and they're very happy. And then my grandpa, her husband, he apparently was a tomato king. He was such a good tomato grower, and it wasn't in the ground. It was in large pots on their balcony. And it was in hanging baskets. He would grow cherry tomatoes out the bottoms of the baskets, the pots. He was such a good tomato grower that he actually wrote a little booklet that was published about it too. So that was pretty exciting. And then, let's see, what else? Family history of growing. So I had these gurus, people that could grow things really well and took care of soil and that kind of thing. And I had no idea what I was doing. I was trying, but I didn't know what I was doing. But then my mom and dad tried, and they were growing stuff in the suburbs of Hazel Park, Michigan. And they were basically doing whatever all their other friends were doing. Like, there was one time that yogurt was big, like homemade yogurt was big. And I remember Mom made some yogurt and she burned it and she didn't realize it was burnt and she wanted us to eat it anyway. So I'm not really a big fan of yogurt, but she was trying to do the healthy thing. And one time she got in this kick where we were supposed to eat bran. And it was like big grains of bran that she cooked for us. And again, she didn't know better and we didn't know better. We didn't like it, but she tried. And what did they grow? I think they grew pumpkins. I do remember they tried growing corn. And then there was some blight that got on the corn. No, it wasn't blight. They said it was blight. And now that I know, it was actually that fungus stuff that grows on corn that's really supposed to be delicious, that people will actually eat. So I vividly remember seeing that on the corn. But they tried growing gardens too. Not great, but they tried. So it's always kind of been in my blood. But I love to see how things grow. I love patterns. I love the environment, and I love how nature works itself out. But it's my birthday. I can talk about what I want to today, and I will. And then I have loved science forever. And I love nutrition. I studied for pre-nursing. I had to do classes like anatomy and physiology and pathophysiology, which is amazing. Amazing to see how the body works. And I also had to do nutrition. But all of it was like, wow. So this one organ will make this chemical that's secreted and goes through the body and goes through this other organ and causes this organ to do something else. I was like, that's incredible. So I wasn't quite sure about a creator until I started taking the pre-nursing classes. And I said, dude, there's no way. And I'll say dude because I am a Gen Xer. So I was a child in the 70s and graduated in the late 80s. So that's just how we speak sometimes. And I'm all right with that. So I always love sciences and I love studying things and I love animals and birds fascinate me. So when we were, got married, had a couple kids. The kids were kind of young when we got divorced. My daughter was 2 and my first son was 7 months old. So I had to figure out how to make things work then. Oh, I did the same thing. Look at that. See that? You see that? Gotta rip it out. That's okay. What's the worst that can happen, right? Is this rocket science? Is it brain science? Did anyone die? No. That's kind of where I go with that. I tell my mind that all the time. When I'm trying something new, it's like, hey, you've never done this before. You're new to this. And how am I supposed to learn unless I make mistakes? And unfortunately, the culture of making mistakes seems to have gone out the window, where either things are made so easy for everybody that they never make a mistake, or they're never allowed to make a mistake because their parents are always saying, you need to do this and you need to do that. And so they never make a mistake. They never have the opportunity to learn on their own. There. All right. Let's see how many rows I've got now. Whatever. I can't look through the camera. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I've got at least one more row. There we go. Okay. So science, I love science. I love it, love it, love it. And then nature, I really love nature. I love animals. and I love birds. So like, oh, that's what I was saying. So, and it's my birthday, and I'll say what I want. And you can get a discount today only, if you sign up. If you send me an email and say, hey, I would like a garden consultation, then you get $15 off, or 10% off the garden consultation fee. There's my quick plug. Okay. So, I have these little kids, and then we were hanging out doing the single parenting thing, divorced parent thingy for several years. And then I met the chief, and he was doing the divorced parent thing too. And he had his kids full time. So we got together, and then we ended up getting married, and we put all the kids together in one house. Ha ha ha! That was fun. Oh yeah, the rose, not good. That's not bad. Good. That was so fun. So there were now 5 kids, 3 of mine, 2 of his. Basically all together are ours in one house. Plus other friends, plus a couple dogs and cats. And we ended up having turtles at one time, and we had fish at one time, and we've had all kinds of different things. And then, and I was a stepmom, and he was a stepdad, and woo, it was fun. There was a lot going on all the time, and the kids were involved in softball and baseball and volleyball and football and marching band and what else? Marching band, concert bands, boys, Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts. The oldest one got to Eagle Scout, oldest stepson to Eagle Scout. And Chief was a scout leader, and he was working full time, and I was working full time, and we were very busy. And initially, our house had the house we bought together in Warren, Michigan, had a pool and a swing set in the backyard, and we thought, this is great. Pool with a deck, swing set, and it was great. And it was for a long time, while the kids were still kind of young. And so because I was working full time too, and taking care of the kids, and there was latchkey, and there was homework, and there was this and that and the other, my stress relief in the growing seasons was gardening. And so by the time we sold our suburban house, like if this, let's see, there you go. Here's our yard, our suburban lot, and our house is here, and our backyard is like, comes to back here with the pool back here. And there's the front going up to the sidewalk. By the time we sold our house, I had gardens all along every edge of the house. And I had gardens all along every edge of the perimeter of the yard. Remember, gardening was my stress relief. I was definitely relieved. And then we also, because the kids had grown up and they weren't using the swimming pool very often, we eventually took the swimming pool down and disassembled the deck and disassembled the playground area, which the kids just had a ball doing all this stuff. And we did have a big sand hole where the pool was. That sat there for at least a year, just a sand pit. And finally I was like, okay, we got to do something with the yard. And it was getting about time for the oldest one to... Was the one to graduate? No. It's getting time for the next stepson to graduate. And we were going to have people in the backyard. And I said, okay, I hired someone, and she drafted up a plan for the backyard. And I got this design from her. She told me how many things to put in, what to put in, and where to put them, including like so the sand pit ended up being like a patio where we actually had a little campfire. And then in front of that sand pit area, which was the campfire pit patio, then we had a dry river bed, and we had a cute shed. And then we had some plantings in all different areas based on what she recommended. And so the backyard looked really, really nice when we were done. And I really liked it. I don't have that picture right now, but I could pull it up later. But it was nice. So I had paid $100 to this designer and she made a really nice color drawing. Like I said, with all the measurements and the number of plants and things like that, and the patio. So we all as a family made the patio for the fire pit. We built the dry riverbed. And we put in a pond. It included a pond because she asked, okay, what is it that you want in this drawing? So it included a pond. We made a pond, a good pond with a fountain and a deep end and a shallow end. And in that pond, toads would come in the spring to mate. And then they would lay their little eggs. And it was for about 2 weeks they would mate. And they would have these calls to each other. Like, hey, baby, you want to start a family? And they were very loud. And it was in the suburbs. But it was fun. And so then they would lay their eggs, strings and strings of toad eggs. And the eggs would hatch. And we would end up having tons and tons, hundreds and thousands of toad babies everywhere, which was good too. Because your toads are going to keep your bad bugs down, like mosquitoes and other things. And yeah, so we built the patio and the pond and the nice looking shed, and we put in the garden, and we did all that ourselves before a graduation party. And then put in all the plants and stuff that she had recommended as well. So it was a nice little deal in the backyard when we transformed from the young kid time to the teenage time and graduation party time. And we really made it a nice place to gather based on what she had drawn. And that's all I needed. I just said, okay, tell me, give me a plan. And, and I was free to modify it, and I did a little bit. I put in some different plants, some places, and changed things around. But eventually, that whole backyard was my view from my window when I worked. And it was gorgeous, and it brought in birds and butterflies and bees and wildlife like crazy. We had ducks come. They would swim in the pond. We had ducks, actually, that would come and swim in the pool a couple times. We had water birds come. We had, like I said, the toads. We had a frog. We had frogs every year, actually. We would have toads in the garden, so I had to be careful when I did my spring cleanup because they like to be in the leaves. And it was just a really nice environment to watch wildlife. It was like having our own little oasis in the suburbs, and a place to gather and just talk and spend time and really have a lot of family connection. So I liked it so much. So if that sounds like something you would be interested in, that's something I have experience in. We have experience building ponds, installing fountains, doing some rock work. Man, that was a lot of work. And my daughter helped a lot with that, laying out the slate rocks and things. It was worth it when it was done, but whew. And there's a saying, how does a mouse eat an elephant? And the saying is one bite at a time. And that's all we did. We just put one foot in front of the other. We tried one thing at a time. Actually, we didn't do one thing at a time. I would basically say, okay, this is where this is going to go. This is where this is going to go. And so, while they're making the shed, I'm planting shrubs. Or while they're finishing up digging for a pond, then I'm planting flowers in the back of it. Things like that. So, yeah, Tam, so you were out in the city, and now why you're out in the country? Well, you see, it's like this. What is it like? Oh, we wanted to downsize. Because listen, when we have 5 kids and 2 adults, our house had 2.5 bathrooms. And when we first went to look at it, the listing for houses, they can only put 5 bedrooms. They can only put the sizes of 5 bedrooms. That's the limit that you could do at the time through like realtor.com or whatever. Through listings, MLS listings, was 5 bedrooms. So we're like, well, we'll figure it out and someone's going to share. When we went to look at the house in Warren, in the suburbs, it turned out it had 6 bedrooms and 2.5 baths and a full basement. And we said, score, because then every kid can have their own room. Every child gets their own room, and we don't have to, at least we don't have to deal with the room sharing. Which worked for us. It doesn't always work for everybody, but it worked for us. And then they, then they could, they made lots of friends there, and had activities around that area. At least the younger kids did. And let's see, so suburbs and Warren. What else was I going to tell you about that? Oh, yeah. So we basically had a small hotel. And actually, when we sold the house, I prepped it. We prepped it thinking it was going to be a family that bought the house. So we wanted to make sure that everything was all set and nobody was going to have to work on anything. And it was going to be like ready to go for a family. Well, as it turned out, it was a single person that bought the house, and he was going to make the bedrooms into offices, which whatever, doesn't matter. It's his thing. Well, why can't I figure out my string again? My yarn here. What am I doing? There. Okay. I'm talking and working at the same time. It's not always conducive. There we go. So he was going to make it into offices. Well, as it turned out, is that 4? That looks like 4 rows now. Oh, I got to switch my yarn. Pull that. There we go. He ended up turning the house into a Verbo. So if we wanted to stay there, it was $25 a night. And we could stay there if we wanted to. We could have rented out rooms. And I think he still has it as a vacation rental where people can rent out rooms, and which is great. I mean, it's his house. Does what he wants. And the other part is that the house is maybe 2 miles from the GM Tech Center. So if people are there short term at GM, then they could just rent a room out and have a cheap place to stay. But I thought that was kind of funny. Oh, not this end. I gotta figure out what end I'm gonna do. Here it is. There we go. Next is going to be white. Yeah, and these yarns are just extras I had from the flower blanket that I finished. And I wanted to do something with it. So I'm just doing single crochets, and I just started this morning. I've been listening to some business stuff for doing the business, and it's my birthday, so I can do what I want. Made breakfast for the chief and I, and did not shower or makeup. Well, I did shower, but I didn't do makeup and hair, so I'm not going to worry about that right now. I do need to go out. Here, I was going to go to a visitation today. So I'm going to go out later in my Subaru that can manage the snow for the visitation. And then I think it's going to be right by where my daughter lives. So, man, now I got all this stuff here. Tam, stop talking and start looking. So I'm going to probably go to lunch with her first, and then go to the visitation. But with my Subaru, I have a cross-track. Did I say that already? I might have. With my Subaru, I should be able to get places just fine. Yep, so I'm going to grab this. See, joining colors is weird for me. I've not done that before. So I'm just winging it. And again, I'm thinking, my brain tries to go, oh, but what about? And I'm like, and I'll handle it. I'll figure it out. If it doesn't work, I'll pull it out and I'll try again. Just like your gardens. If they don't work, you can move things around. You can pull it out. You can try again. There are very few garden mistakes that you can't undo. So don't be afraid to try. Don't be afraid to make changes, things like that. Okay, so we had a small hotel, and it was way too much for just the chief and I to heat and clean and all that kind of stuff. So we said, well, we are going to sell this thing. And we had our realtor looking all kinds of places. Poor guy. We had him running around town like crazy. We were looking as far south as like Coldwater. Is it Coldwater? Like downriver. We were looking north, like Dryden. We were looking all kinds of places. But they had to be within a certain range so that the chief could get to work and back without killing himself on a commute. There. Okay. I just don't like those ends. They don't look pretty, but that's okay. So we ended up in Macomb Township. It's funny because the first house we looked at is actually maybe 1/8 of a mile from here down Card Road. And we put in an offer that was really low because it was not in the best shape. And they turned it down. But I just think it's ironic that we're so close to that first place that we looked at. And we are on less than an acre. Well, we have, I think, 3/4 of an acre. And we're on 24 Mile. So the county, there's an easement right at the busy road. So we can only plant a certain distance away from the road. Like, we can't plant closer than a certain distance. So my plan, I drew up plans like on paper about what we can do and how to look. And I had all, because I have a very good imagination. So if you see bare grass, I can see beautiful flowers and terraces and trellises and all that kind of stuff. And so I drew it all up. And then as soon as we moved in, I plopped the blue spruce. Blue spruce? I don't know. I think they were blue spruce shrubs. In right like facing the street, so we had a little bit of privacy. And so my plan was to put those in front, and then behind them would be like flowering shrubs and trees and things like that are more chaotic. So kind of like a mullet approach, where your business up front and your party in the back. Well, those shrubs I put in were too close to the road, and nobody said anything until there. Okay. Nobody from the county or anything said anything until it was like mid-August. And then they said, like, you're too close to the road. These shrubs have to go. And you have to do it within 72 hours. So Tam was not thrilled, but she complied. And I moved all those doggone shrubs. I had to move them 9 feet back from where they were. They had to be like behind the utility pole. So because I didn't know, I made some big mistakes and I had to pull them back. And now I know. And when we moved in here, there were only a few mature trees. And I think we have a Japanese maple shrub in the front yard. But that was all that was here. And so any other trees, let's see, we have a large mature white birch in the back. We have a large Norway maple in the front. And we had large evergreens in the northwest corners, which is great because that blocks the wind. and a lilac. The lilac has got to be, I don't know, at least 50 years old in the back. And what else? I'm missing something. And that Japanese maple. That was it. So everything else was grass. And that was actually exciting to me because it meant I had a clean, fresh slate I could start from. And I could make it I could plan it better than I had done at the suburbs, where the suburbs was like 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there, quick do it before I got to go pick the kids up, before so-and-so gets up from their nap, before such and such has to go to school, things like that. So I did not have a lot of opportunity to make a lot of changes. So if I put two colors that were really clashing together, I kind of was stuck with it, and that's just how it was. Or if I put in perennials that were native and they were taken over, I couldn't really do much about that. Let's see. Oh, and before we moved, my grandma, the master gardener, she had been in hospice for dementia. They never said it was Alzheimer's, I think. She had been in hospice for dementia. And then, for whatever reason, they said, oh, she doesn't need hospice now for dementia. Which was weird, and my poor grandpa, he visited her every day. Every single day he came to see her. And so he was getting ready. I mean, it was going to be hospice. He was getting ready for that, and that did not happen, good and bad. Because my grandma, she didn't even know who she was or who anyone else was. And this went on for at least a few years. So then she was not on hospice, and they said, no, she doesn't need hospice now. Okay. So grandpa had to make a switch. But about that time, I finally, because all these years that I was raising the kids and working, full time, I had said, oh, I wish I could take the Master Gardener classes. I wish I could do it. I'd like to. I finally just did it. I said, you know what? I'm just going to set a course and do it. And so I took the Master Gardener courses, the extension courses, when they were still in person. And we met up in Macomb, so the Macomb Extension Center. I think it's on Elizabeth. Off Elizabeth. Anyway, that was in person. We got a huge manual. And we learned so much. Oh my God. I wish I had known all this stuff before I had started gardening, but you know what? That's how it is. And then we had to do volunteer hours after taking the course and the tests and meeting in the classes. And then on the volunteer hours, I really learned a lot there. Like, I never heard about using cardboard to keep your weeds down. Never had heard about that. I was like so excited. And I did some work over with the Mount Clemens market, I believe it was. They had some gardens over there. And so they were telling me about that. And we were laying cardboard. And then we were laying wood chips. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I wish I had known. Because I really just didn't know. And it's amazing what happens when you start learning. When you're willing to learn. And you're willing to take the time to learn. And you're willing to invest in your life to learn. Because even though... I still had kids that were... Gosh, how old was my youngest then? 17. So they were still, in high school, I think? So they were still active. And in scouts, still active in scouts and those kinds of things. But I just said, you know what? I've always wanted to do it. And I want to learn more. And when, there's never a best time. And unfortunately, being women, we are told that you can do everything. Well, I'm going to tell you, you can. And you'll be happier if you don't try and do everything all at one time. Because nobody's happy then. So there just comes times in your life that are, you can open new chapters and times you can close chapters, and you got to do what's right for you. But if you're miserable because you're trying to juggle all the balls, then you need to set some balls down, and that's okay. Or if you're trying to spin all the plates, is another analogy. Sometimes you just can't and still be a happy person and be nice to people. So it just happened. I was able to just do it. I decided on it. I figured it out and I made it happen. Now I had to put some other things down. I had to say no to some friend commitments or some social commitments and things to do this, but I committed to it and I did it. And I got my Master Gardener certification. And I have a picture. I went to visit my grandma in the nursing home, which she didn't know who I was. And, she didn't know who she was. But I took a picture next to her, standing holding the Master Gardener certificate. I don't know why. I just figured she'd be tickled if she knew. But I knew. And that was important to me, that I get to carry on the kinds of things that she was doing. So, yeah. So we did move from the suburbs to the quote unquote country. We do have residential buildings all around us and more construction. So the country itself is quickly turning into the city, but that means that there's more opportunity to teach people about gardening, which I really would love to do. So Grandma and Grandpa, they didn't grow. I think the only thing they grew were tomatoes. Great Grandma grew rhubarb and some other things. I'm not sure what else she grew. Strawberries, but I don't know what else. And so because I want to teach y'all how to grow just about anything and how to attract wildlife to your yards and how to detract the wildlife you don't want from your yards, then I felt like I wanted to try to grow at least everything. not in one season, but like throughout the seasons. I want to be able to show you how to grow each item that you could think about growing. So I can grow like every staple, carrots and onions and broccoli and cucumbers and tomatoes and squash. And some of the more fun things I've grown were like cucamelon or I love purple pole beans. Those are fun because they have pods that are purple, and when you cook them they turn green, so you can't even tell they're purple. So things like that. And then we do have room and we have chickens, so I'm able to share what I've learned about poultry. And we do sell the eggs. We've had turkeys and we had eggs then, and we have a duck. We had 6 ducks, but we have 1 duck now. So we have duck eggs. We've had duck eggs. Let's see, what else do we have? Turkeys, ducks. In the meantime, we've had dogs and cats, and the cats were inside outside cats. They took care of the bunnies, a lot of the bunnies. In fact, we had one cat that would leave us half a bunny. Oh my gosh, that was gross. And then, oh, my daughter's trying to reach me. Maybe she commented here. I could talk to her. But the lunch place I was thinking of, which is going to be K-Pot, because I got back from South Korea where I was visiting our youngest. And I really love Korean food now. It's so good. And like, there's hardly any bread and hardly any sugar. And the stuff is so fresh, except kimchi, which is also delicious. So I have grown, and we have an orchard, because that was one of the things. Oh, pets, that's what I was talking about. So the cats, we have cats that have been taking care of mice and bunnies. We have had dogs that have scared away the bigger stuff, like the coyotes or the wolves or the foxes. They were scaring away like any moles or groundhogs or anything like that. And then there was a time we didn't have a dog. And then we got a dog again. We got a Great Pyrenees. We rehomed to our place. And it had a lot of room to roam. But currently we do not have a dog. But we do have a feral cat from the suburbs. She lives in the basement because when we got the Great Pyrenees, she was like, "Oh no, I'm not coming up." So she likes to hang out in the basement, which is finished and furnished and stuff. So she's comfortable down there. And then we have a feral cat that I brought home from, it was a barn cat from the stables, the horse stables that I volunteered at. And his name is Smokey. He's just a baby. And he hangs out usually up here unless we're not home. And then he goes down and he tries to harass her. So we do have 2 cats right now, but we currently do not have a dog. So we don't have something that's chasing away the mammals that we don't want right now. We do have 2 roosters. We have 13 hens now. We had, how many hens did we have before? 13. We had 17 hens. I think it was 17 hens and 2 roosters, and then a raccoon. That's the other thing. The dogs would keep raccoons away. They wouldn't want to come in. But we had a raccoon attack, and we lost 4 hens. And the duck was maimed in the back of her neck. She's alive and healing. But the 2 roosters are only as good as where they can be, and they, they can't fight off a raccoon. If it comes down to a rooster versus a raccoon, the raccoon's going to win. Now, if it was a hawk, an aerial predator, the rooster would have a better chance, but not for a raccoon. So maybe we'll get a dog in the fall, maybe. We've got a couple trips up to the thumb coming up in May and in July, so if we got a dog now, we would have to, well, our one feral cat, Harley Quinn, she would never come up from the basement if we got a dog now. That would never happen. But every time she tries to come up, Smokey chases her. So maybe when he gets more mature, he wouldn't. But anyway, we don't have a dog right now. But we do dog sit sometimes. So if you wanted to have someone watch your dog, sometimes we watch the dog. There is a kennel behind our house as well. So you can always go to Schramm's Country Kennel, and they will gladly watch your puppy while you are traveling. All right. Well, I think that's all I got to say about that. This is from this morning then. Single crochets with my leftover yarn from the flower blanket that I finished. It's my birthday. So, because it's my birthday and because of the weather. Oh, there's a cool picture. Oh, it just flew away, darn it. I'll just show you the Juncos. There. Yeah, because of the weather, I'm not having the hands-on winter sewing class, but it will be virtual through Zoom, and I will likely do that Tuesday at 7 o'clock. But you do need materials with you, or it's not going to be as effective as if you just listen. Because if you're just going to listen, you could just do a YouTube. But we want to learn at the same time. I want you to experience it and feel it and do the things I'm doing as I'm doing them so you can have the questions answered instantaneously, as long with that, whatever other questions you have. So I'll do that virtually. And the other thing is, if you want a garden consultation and you email me today on my birthday, you will get $15 off, or 10% off, if you want to call it that, of a garden consultation fee. But you have to email me today in order to get that. And that is thelazynortherngardener. It's garden and then ER at yahoo.com. Oh, yeah. And so that's what I was going to say is if you've been gardening for a while and you're like, well, I don't know why the birds don't hang out where I am. I want to attract a certain bird. I've got a hummingbird feeder, but it never comes to it. I would like to attract birds naturally because I can't always fill the feeders. Like if you want wildlife to come to your home and you're not getting it, that's something I can help with. Starts with the garden consultation. If you have critters that are invading your garden and you don't want them, that also would start with a garden consultation. And I have tons and tons and tons of ideas and resources and things you can try. Things that are effective, things that are not effective. I have webinars available and lessons and courses through standstore.com. So that would be standstore /TLNG. That's the Lazy Northern Gardener. Standstore /TLNG. Oh, actually, it might be standstore.com /TLNG. Anyway, it's a stand store. You can look it up and search TLNG for the Lazy Northern Gardener. But email me today for a garden consultation discount of $15 or 10%. And it's my birthday, and that's why I'm doing that. But it has to be emailing today. So tomorrow won't cut it. It's got to be on the 15th. But, there's a, what was it? Was a wren, a thrush. Oh, I can't tell. Yeah, so my backyard in the suburbs, I had so many different birds come and it was great. Maybe you're a birder and you want to attract them so you can watch from the window and get your bird count in. I had warblers and tanagers and, oh gosh, all kinds of things. It was great. It was great. And I got good birding binoculars. And so in between reports or coding or auditing or whatever it is I was doing at the time, I could just sit and watch the birds. And I could listen to the frogs and I could hear the toads, and it was just very good. Very, very good. So it's my birthday, but I love y'all. I figured I'd give you a gift. So that's all I got for you. And don't be on the roads if you don't have to, but if you have to, make it worthwhile. Don't go for dumb things. Go for important things, like getting together with people. And there's a woodpecker. There you go. A large male. Oh, there he goes. We also get the small downy woodpeckers, like the black and white ones that are little. Have not gotten the very large ones, which is good because I don't necessarily want the great big ones that eat a tree in a day. I jokingly, I tell my family, listen, since my grandma had dementia, I probably will end up with that of some sort. So if that's the case, just put me in front of a window with bird feeders or where I can watch birds and I'll be fine. Anyway, love you guys. Stay safe, stay warm, and catch you later.